All right, a happy Wednesday. Hopefully everyone is doing great. We are going to do an off-season video on the Houston Rockets. This is the 7th off-season video on teams that are not in the playoffs. We've actually attempted to do this video like 3 times already, and we are having some technical issues with the process of filming. And I'm a one-man band, and I am not tech savvy. So we are going to try this again. Hopefully it works out. You could read all about Houston and the other 13 teams on ESPN.com in the what eliminated teams need to do in the offseason. There will be more teams added. If you are a Suns fan, you might get an article this weekend. If you are an Orlando Magic fan, you might get an article this weekend here. But we are going to focus on Houston, 41-41, not doom and gloom like previous off seasons. Give GM Rafael Stone a lot of credit. Scrutinized last off season about the plan of utilizing cap space. Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, traded away a bunch of former first-round picks. Jeff Green, Jock Landale. I heard what people said. I heard what people from different front offices texted me. $60 million on a team that can win 35 games and finish in the lottery again. However, when you are in the rebuild and you are in basically year 3 of the post-James Harden era, and you have a group of players in Jalen Green and Alperen, Sengun, and Jabari Smith, and Tari Eason, and Cam Whitmore, and Amen Thompson. The goal is to put your players in a position come March and April to play competitive playoff-type games and not to continually play out the string of counting your lottery balls. And if Houston never makes the playoffs in the Fred VanVleet era, which has 2 years left on it, and they are continually in the mix, it's still a successful offseason that the Rockets had last offseason. So I give the Rockets front office credit. They were able to go out and spend money, and with that comes with a better product and, as I said, playing meaningful minutes. Part of that certainly has to do with how Houston went about hiring their next head coach, which was Ime Udoka. And you have an identity in Houston. The ranking 29th in the NBA in defensive efficiency and a turnover-prone machine that resulted in countless transition points is over. You have an identity as a team that ranks in the top 10 defensive efficiency. You got better offensively in March and in April, certainly when Jalen Green took off. And as I said, you do have an identity. Now, here comes the hard part, right? There's always a but. Here comes the hard part, and we're going to write about this with Orlando when they are eliminated, and maybe next year Indiana if they can't get out of the first round. What is next? The hardest part for any front office is evaluating how to take that next step, whether it be internally with your own players, whether it be in the draft, where Houston has the 9th pick in the draft, whether it be in a trade. Houston has the flexibility with contracts to go out and make a trade and not exceed the luxury tax or the Alperen rules. They are in a good position here. But what is next? How do you go from 41-41 to 48-34, 49-33? And Sacramento went through it a year ago, and Houston is behind that retooling phase where you go from the 3 seed in the playoffs to losing on day 2 of the play-in. And now has that roster plateaued? So now this is the challenge for Houston. 17-11 since the All-Star break, one of the better teams is taking that next step. And do you have faith if it can be done internally within your own group here? That's your state of the roster as far as where you are. You have a nice group of young core players. Sengun, certainly we talked about VanVleet, not young, but Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Whitmore. You're going to add a pick. Thompson, there is a solid group of a foundation there. And from a state of the roster, you are in a good, really good position here. As I said, your finances you're one of these in-between teams, which is good in this day and age of the NBA. You're not in a salary cap position where you have to go out and spend. You did that last offseason. You've got $122 million in guaranteed contracts. You went out and got Steven Adams last year. We'll see where he is health-wise. You add another $5 million for your draft pick, and you are in a really, really good position financially here. You've got $23 million in additional non-guaranteed contracts, which consist of Jason Tate, Jeff Green, and Jock Landale. June 29th to exercise the Tate $7.5 million option, and same with Landale, $8 million. Jeff Green's contract becomes guaranteed on July 11th, $8 million contract. 1.6 was unlikely bonuses. It's an $8 million contract. You can keep those players, use your non-tax mid-level exception, which is at $12.9 million, and still have flexibility to go out and make a trade here. You are solid when it comes to your position financially. It will get expensive, and that's where we're going to transition into next, because now you have decisions to make when it comes to Jalen Green and Sengun. Are you willing to write a blank check of $450 million for both players? $225 each, 5 years. If you base it off March and April for Green, the answer is yes, right? I mean, come on. I'm pulling up the extension candidates. 30 points, 50% from the field, 45% on threes in the 11 games winning streak. Okay? But here's the thing. We look at a full 3-year body of work. And I know you only have 1 year under Udoka. But here's a player that was close to being benched in the first half of the season. 41% from the field, 30% on threes. You have to take all 3 years into account here. I am not writing him a $225 million max extension check. 5 years, 160. That's fair. More than Devin Vassell, certainly fair. Better player. Better, probably upside is higher, closer to an all-star here. And if that's not appeasable to Jalen Green in his camp, then we will see you in restricted free agency. And if great, you have an all-star season, we'll be happy to write that check for $225. Sengun is interesting. There has not been a max player, a center, signing rookie max extension since Bam Adebayo in 2020. Max contracts are challenging when it comes to the center position. Career high in points, rebounds, assists, steals, 5th in points in the paint. All career years. Certainly, you can make the argument that the offense was better when he got injured. I think you can debate that. I thought the offense played great when Green took off, not when the Sengun injury occurred here. And that transitions into your offseason priorities here. How do you improve your offense without compromising the defensive identity of this roster? And you could say the same thing about a team like the Orlando Magic here, where when you were in Houston, I'm looking at their offseason, before the All-Star break, 24th in offense, 26th in assists, 29th in three-point percentage, 25th in two-point percentage. How you go to phase 2 to phase 3 in this rebuild is not an offense that ranks in the bottom 10 in offense here. Certainly putting Amen Thompson at center helped. That played a big role. But then what does it mean for Sengun? It kind of opened up more things here. And that's going to be the balancing act this offseason with Rafael Stone and Ime Udoka figuring out how to kind of find an in-between as far as how that offense improves, but without impeding, as I said, what you can do on defense here. You're good with draft picks. You do owe your own first this year. Top 4 protected to Oklahoma City. You have that Nets pick this year. You have a swap with Brooklyn in 25 and 27. You have the Nets unprotected first in 2026. You have a swap. Oklahoma City can swap next year if it's outside the top 10. And you owe that Westbrook trade is a major disaster. Nobody ever writes about it, man, but that is a god-awful trade. I mean, when you look at the ramifications of what happened, and you're basically still for basically a kind of a 1 year. That is some major collateral damage here, but that's for another day, and that's for certainly the current front office inherited as far as that. But you still owe Oklahoma City a top 4 protected first in 2026. That pick is the pick. That trade is the trade that keeps on giving here, and that is where you are in Houston. You are in a great spot with your young players. You have a top 10 pick. You are a 500 team. You have extensions decisions with Green and Sengun. But all in all, this is not a doom and gloom video.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Keep them going, try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, it's too far.